Hi, this is Christian with Wulong Toys, and I'm going to show you how to assemble your Kreon Combiner upgrade hand. You can see the hand, it's fully articulated. It's got 5 fingers, a thumb, individual knuckle joints, and it has a slot for holding on to 3mm weapons, like the Kreons can. It's also got a wrist joint here. I do not currently possess any of the combiners, however. I'm still waiting for them to ship, or to arrive rather. But when I do, I'll be sure to take some photos of my combiners with these upgrade hands. What you can see here is the hand for Devastator, in this nice purple. So let's go ahead and get it assembled. When you get it from Shapeways, it's going to be on a sprue tree like this. It will most likely be, depending on the kind of material you got, white, like this one here. I've already painted this one. I just used acrylic paints, and I kind of watered them down a bit so that they could soak into the porous material. I just find it a lot easier to paint it while it's still together like this, since these are such tiny little fiddly bits. Alright, let's go ahead and get them separated. Oh, just real quick, these are the tools that you're going to need. Is some needle nose pliers with wire cutters, or if you have separate wire cutters. You're going to need a knife to cut apart these guys, and you're also going to need a paper clip, just the standard sized paper clip. I know they come in like large and normal. This will be the normal sized one. It's about 1 millimeter in diameter. I'll just set those aside for right now. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this all cut apart. You don't need these bits in between, so those can get tossed. Okay, we've got all of our parts cut out. One thing you're going to notice if you painted yours before you cut them out like I did is you're going to notice all these little white bits where your cuts were at. That's normal. That's just where the paint didn't soak in. I'm not going to worry about the ones on the fingers just yet. I'm going to hold off on those. But I do have a brush ready with some more paint. So I'm just going to wet some of this, and I'm just going to touch up those little white bits. And on the other side. I'm not the greatest customizer or painter, but I think that'll do the job. There we go. And I'll set that aside while we're working on fingers. Same thing for these parts. Okay, as I said, I'm not going to worry about the finger parts just yet. I'll hold off on those. Let me just rinse my brush. Okay, and now let's get started on the fingers. This little piece here is the thumb joint. We're not going to worry about that one just yet, so I'll set that aside. The finger parts, you've got 2 kinds. There is this one here, which is the fingertip, and you see it's only got the one hold side. And then this is the, I guess, the middle portion, or the lower finger. And you can see it's got, you know, holes on 2 sides, and kind of a Y shape. The part with the knuckle on top is the top of the finger, and same thing on this side. With this particular model, obviously it's got those knuckles. Other models, however, do not have those. For example, the Superion set here does not have knuckles. However, if you look closely, there is like a little ridge here, and you can still kind of tell which direction is going to be the top. If you've gotten the plain hands like this guy, still, you're going to look for kind of that arc. I mean, when you assemble it, it'll only bend one direction, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to take one fingertip and one of these guys, and I'm going to slot them together. Obviously, they're not going to stay because they don't have anything to keep them together. This is where your paper clip comes in handy. What we are going to do is going to take our paper clip and put it through the holes like this. It's going to act as our axle. So what I do is I put it through there first, then I take my needle nose and I clamp it. Now you can see it's sticking out a little bit there. I'm going to just push that a little bit. There we go. And I hold on tight to that. I remove the finger. Then I'm going to take the butt of my knife, because it's metal, and trying to bend something that tiny with your fingers is going to hurt you. I'll just take that and just make a little bend. The reason I'm doing that is so that, as you can see, it marks where I'm going to cut. So I will line up my cutters right where that mark is. I'm not going to try to do it angled that way, but I will cut that. And there's the little piece. These things are so tiny, it's very easy to lose them. Okay, so now I've got my teeny tiny little axle. I've got my fingers, and I will slide it right through that hole. As long as it's lined up, it should go right in. And that's not going anywhere. To make sure that it doesn't go out, it doesn't go anywhere, what we're going to do is now we're going to take our paint again. Take my brush, some paint, and I will just I will take care of those little white blobs, but I would also dab some paint into the hole where the paper clip is. And the reason for that is because the paint will help to hold that in there. It'll kind of thicken up that. And because I'm using acrylic paint, acrylic is kind of like a plastic. And it'll kind of form a film just to make it all a little tighter. Alright, I will set you aside, and I will get to work on the rest of them. Okay, I've now put together all of the other fingers with the little axles from the paper clip here, and ready to move on. The last thing to do is the thumb joint. So I'm going to take one of the fingers here, the first one I had done since the paint is dry. On the thumb joint here, notice how, get a pointing implement. I'm going to need to straighten that anyway, so. Because we'll need one more for all of the fingers attached to the hand. Now then, on this thumb joint, I want you to notice that there is a straight side, one that forms a right angle, and there's an angled side. This angled side is the top. So I will take my finger and I will insert it so that the knuckles here are on the top and they match up with the top of my thumb joint. And again, just like with the other fingers, we take our paper clip and we run it through the holes. So that it pokes us in the finger on the other side. Let me take my needle nose. So I have that where I want it. Take that back off. Bend to mark. And cut that. Get that where we want it, and insert it into the thumb joint. And that one actually went into quite remarkably easily compared to all the other ones I had to do. I will now, again, just like with the others, I'm just going to take a drop of my paint, and I'm going to cover up just that little bit of metal, just to help seal it in there a little better. And I will set that down. And while that is drying, we will do the rest of the hand. I'll take the main section, the wrist, the little bit with the little tabby bits is going to go inside of these grooves here. And they just pop in. You don't have to worry about anything else. They just snap right in. There we go. There's our wrist joint. Obviously this part goes into the Kreon. For the rest of these guys, I'm going to take my paperclip, I'm going to run it through the holes. Now I know I haven't put the other parts in yet, but that's okay because right now we're just measuring. Come on, all the way through. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but it's actually pushing out little bits of material that was stuck in there. There's a little bit on my finger here. Alright, get that where I want it. Okay, same deal as before. Mark that off with my pliers. Gently pull it out because it doesn't have the fingers in there to strengthen it. There. Now this is long enough that I can just bend it easily with my finger. It's marked. We will cut that. Now the fun part. We take all of these guys, we position them in here, and if they're loose, like they are today, this is going to be a real joy. Just get them all in there as best you can. I'm using my thumb here to try to kind of pinch them, hold them into place. Whatever works easier for you, whether it's standing them up or folding them around. I'm going to try to do it standing up, having them all lined up, and then take my axle here. I'm actually going to hold on to it short, just so that I can get a little bit more strength on it, and push it through, back a little bit. A little bit more through. And there, now it's flush. And there, now our fingers are all in there. There they bend quite nicely. We're missing a thumb over here. Now the holes that the wrist pegged into, that snapped into, there's holes on the sides here. The little tab on the end of the thumb joint here just plugs into one of those holes, depending on whether or not you want this to be a left hand or a right hand. Now, I've already got a left hand here, so I'd better make this a right hand. And so I will just plug that into there. Being careful because my paint is still a little bit wet. So I will hold it that way. And just peg that in. There we go. There we go. Now I've got a a complete hand. Now there isn't anything to hold that that thumb in other than it just being pegged into place, and that's also what it rotates on, so just be mindful of that. But now we've got our hand complete. We can make fists, rotate this around, there we go. There's a fist. And then obviously these tabs will plug into the combiner. So that's it. We've now made a hand, and enjoy. I hope you get a lot of fun out of these guys, because I had a lot of fun designing them. Thanks a lot.